Welcome to the Time In Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Time In Podcast. We were lucky enough to be joined not only by myself and Bundy this week, but also by two very special guests, recurring guests as well, Gary and Justice. How you doing, guys?
Doing great. It's really cold where we're at and it's snowing, but hopefully it ends soon.
Nice. I have to say, I'm very impressed by your t-shirt for this podcast.
Yes, I purposely wore my Baby Yoda shirt.
Nice, keeping it themed. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing good. I'm also not drinking alcohol for this podcast because last time we did with you guys, we ended up making a Tinder for Anakin Skywalker because we were that inebriated at the time, and I figured better choices should be made today.
That's fair. Doesn't like sand.
That leaves two questions. One, how many matches did you get? And two, how many matches did you get?
We both realized we met our wives before Tinder was a thing, and we were just really damn confused. So, for all I know, Anakin Skywalker is out there getting constant matches and just blowing off these poor girls.
I like him. He's like it just set an automatic response. It's like it's just someone that messages and it's like, all you hear is, now this is pod racing.
Okay, so the plan this week is to talk about The Mandalorian. I've got a few sections of the show. Firstly, I thought we'd talk through the 8 episodes of The Mandalorian, just quickly talk about the highlights, what we thought of the series, compare it to the first season. I'd quite like to speak about the announcements, the multitude of announcements that were made about the Star Wars universe, and then finish with a quick quiz, because last time I believe you guys beat Bundy in a knowledge quiz. It's very simple, so we might have a chance to redeem ourselves here.
Every time I do a knowledge quiz, it does not go well.
That is exactly what I'm banking on, Justice. So firstly, let's talk about the episodes. I've got one line that describes the episode poorly that I'm going to use for everyone. So episode 1, Dragon. In fact, before we get to this, I should probably ask, what did you think of the first series of The Mandalorian?
I mean, we were gushing over The Mandalorian. It's so well done. I feel like it's hard to say anything new that's complimenting the series because everyone just seems to universally love it unless you're Baby Yoda eating an egg. But other than that, everyone is all on board for The Mandalorian. I loved season 1. I just felt like it left a lot of potential there. Yeah. And season 2 kind of capitalized on a lot of it.
Agreed.
But also, not only did it capitalize, but it also opened up so many other doors for other possibilities, and that's what made the season 2, I think, even better in some cases than season 1.
Yeah, I would argue season 1 could have progressed quicker and spanned out quicker, but they've done it at a comfortable pace, that's fair. And it came out around the same time as the Witcher series, and a lot of the good things people were saying about one, they were also saying about the other, which I quite enjoyed. Bundy, how do you feel about season 1?
Well, the thing about season 1, right, is that season 1 was great, but then, it was just, I think that if you combine Star Wars alongside Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, it's just that's like a combination made in heaven, right? And then season 1 was I feel like, even though he was going through the finding of himself almost, it was almost, pardon the analogy, but chipping away the armor of who is the Mandalorian kind of thing. Yeah. Just kind of getting to know him, building his character. Obviously, who is Jin Daren and all that kind of stuff. And then season 2 expanded on what kind of person is he and what does he what motivates and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so agreed that we're all big fans of the first series. Let's talk about the second series, starting with episode 1. And the note I have for that is Dragon.
I mean, just right off the bat, this episode. So I had I had a routine watching Mandalorian. I would get up really early at 5 in.the.morning and watch it, then work out, and then go to work. And when this first episode came on, it blew my mind. Just one, because in episode 4 we always see that C-3PO walking by and there's the dragon, but then if you've grown up like I have playing Star Wars video games, and there's a level in Knights of the Old Republic where you have to kill the crate dragon, what they did is they brought it, everything kind of full circle, and you got to see in live action what it would take to kill this kind of dragon, and I just was absolutely in love with it.
Yeah.
Well, also at the same time, teasing all the Boba Fett fans with that, I'm blanking on the character's name, but seeing somebody else wearing
Cobb
the
Vanth.
armor. Yes.
Yeah. That was awesome. That was a nice touch, to be fair. That was a very nice touch. Crate Dragon, not something I can remember coming across in any game or movie so far. So I actually found that quite mind-blowing when it came about, and then I done a bit of reading about it.
I think it's interesting because there's so many, I'll call them creatures that are like, they have a lot of like extended lore, I'll say, about them, like the Sarlacc or the Crate Dragon or whatever else, and it's just nice to actually have like one of these creatures put in to like something that is like not just because an animated series is cool, but to see it like full on like CGI and like be like, oh my god, this is sick, really cool.
So I don't know about Gary's routine here. I'm going to ask about that in a sec, but I was very late to the game. I was in the process of moving house when it came out, and Bundy would phone me every week saying, have you started yet? I'm like, no, not yet. He was like, right, you need to start this week. And I got to episode 5, I believe, before I started watching. So I had to catch up, and I caught up in time for episode 7 and 8. Episode 8, we'll tell you a story about that when we get to it. Gary, what was your sort of routine like watching it?
I would basically avoid social media at all costs on Friday, which coming to the main event at the end of the season, I had that spoiled by Mark Hamill, which I'm still a little bit bitter by. But I avoided it, and then Saturday morning, it was one of those where, like, my wife and I would sit down, and anytime, like, she'd talk for a fraction of a second, I'll just pause it and be like, we're watching Mandalorian, and then go back to it. Long story short, I'm now divorced, but really enjoyed the season.
I can just imagine Gary's wife speaks, and this is what she's used to. It's just like...
Still. So episode 2, the sentence I have is ice spiders. You want to go first on this one, Bundy?
I feel like it was very... I know this is like maybe a weird thing to think of, but I just felt very like Harry Potter vibes from it. Because I don't know if you remember, but in the Harry Potter films, like obviously all the spiders like run up to like the car and stuff, and it was very like that. But where in Harry Potter they were like, "Oh, I'm a little bitch," and then runs away. Mandalorian was obviously like, "I'm a fucking alpha male," and was just being a big dog, and then for it to be like saved by I don't know, because obviously like, anyone who's going to be like a pilot for an X-Wing is cool, right? They're just two normal guys, but these guys were like Poe Dameron levels of flying to get into that meteor and like blast those specters. Like it was so cool.
Mentioned the X-Wing, when they pull up next to the Razor Crest, and when they can't hear them on the radio, but the wings open up. That's I love it. I absolutely love it. That's when you know it's about to go down. How about you, Gary and Justice? What did you guys think of the second episode?
This is one we kind of have mixed feelings on, because anybody who like goes on Twitter and looks at Star Wars fans, God bless you, it's awful. But everyone was kind of back and forth on Baby Yoda eating the eggs. And that led to a lot of political debate on pro-life versus pro-choice and all kinds of weird stuff. And I'm like, it's just a little green alien eating some eggs, guys. I thought it was cute and kind of funny. At first, I'm like, it's a little weird, but it grew on me. And there's kind of some fun throwbacks in that episode. Like the spiders, I think were from concept art from Empire. I have to think back to when we actually knew our stuff and studied for the episode. But there was like cool little nuggets in there, but it was definitely a filler kind of episode.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, this is
I think-
my least favorite
Sorry, go ahead,
episode.
Justice.
This is my least favorite episode of the season. I'm glad that we're doing this podcast now because the weekend before, my buddy and I binge watched the show from episode 3 to 8. So I'm like ready to go with all this knowledge. But when he was talking to me, he's not a huge Star Wars fan, and he was like, yeah, like after episodes 2, I stopped watching because it like just didn't, like, there was no point in watching that episode. It didn't add anything to the story. And I completely agree. The one I did like the spiders, and it reminded me of Harry Potter, or reminded me of Alien actually, with them like coming out and that was like the one thing that I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then Dave Filoni driving the X-wing. But other than that, I'd rather just watch episode 1 and then start at episode 3 and keep on going.
Yeah. Well, you know what you said, Gary, about Yoda eating, or Baby Yoda eating the eggs? I actually thought what's going to happen here is all eggs are going to get destroyed, but then at some point, Baby Yoda's going to regurgitate the eggs and they're all going to be good. And then, but it turns out it just ate them. I was like, oh, well, okay, then they've went a different way with that.
But it's cool, right? Because like I can picture Mace Windu sitting down and eating a bowl of ramen or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, or like a nice steak. But then what does Yoda eat, right? Because like you see plenty of like creatures getting eaten in Star Wars, but like what would Yoda eat? So it's funny just to think of him like eating like eggs.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like I just think that's like a funny thing. Like I can just now imagine Yoda being like in the Jedi Temple being like, listen, where's these extinct species there?
There's this theory that Yoda is an invasive species on Dagobah and has killed off all the frogs, and that's why like no species like interacts with him during that whole scene, because he's just like ate them all.
I can believe it now.
I mean, that's balance, man. That's balance to the Force.
So, yeah, he just needs to get those midichlorians from somewhere.
Moving on to episode 3, Bo-Katan is the note I've got for this episode.
Okay, I'm wondering with you guys, did you have any familiarity with Bo-Katan or seen Clone Wars at all before that episode?
All I was thinking was Lieutenant Uhura, if I'm being honest.
I
Episode.
have watched the animated series for Clone Wars, so I knew like Bo-Katan and like roughly about her and stuff like that. Not like extended, but I knew as much as I needed to know, pretty much.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the areas where it's kind of risky for them as a show, because they could kind of alienate out some of the other fans, you know, just the people who are like, hey, Baby Yoda's cute, this is kind of a badass show, by adding in these Clone Wars and extended kind of characters. But it's also dope fan service for people who know about it.
Yeah.
I like that they brought in. I like that they brought in the voice actor, but then I also think it was smart that Disney on Disney Plus had it where there's like the 20 essential episodes that they could watch for, you know, to understand Ahsoka and Bo-Katan, and so it made sense. So, you know, if you're, especially during the pandemic when you're binging, you know, a lot of things, it was very smart of them to add that there.
Yeah. I'm going to skip on quite quickly through these because I'm wary of the time. Episode 4, I've got a note that says Grief Karga.
This is what?
Which
Grief
one's that one?
Karga. Have I got this spelled wrong, or have I got the notes mixed up, which could be worse? So let me get this right. Episode 5, Ashoka Tano and double lightsabers. So episode 4.
Yes. That's the one where they go and they go to the base, and isn't it where he gets his ship, you know, rebuilt, and on where he like recruits Cara Dune and Carl Weathers' character, and that's when you find out that they were testing Baby Yoda's blood for for Snoke or whatever. That's what I'm assuming. That was it.
So in episode 4, it's not a filler episode, but by any means, but it was. I would say it was quite thin compared to some of the others in terms of content.
I mean, if you're comparing it from like episode 3 to episode 4, yeah, like because 3 it's such a banger, and you know the Mandalorians are awesome, but 4 is still good. You get Carl Weathers directing it, and there's a lot of action. And I also think that this is where you start to bridge the gap between this just being a show, but it's also part of like the larger story and bridging it to the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, that's true. And I believe they have confirmed that the Mandalorian's got to go right up to the sequel trilogy now, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, they're not rewriting the story like everyone thinks they are.
Bundy, Gary, you guys any thoughts on episodes 4 or 5 for that matter?
I think 4 was. I think it was good because obviously, like we kind of we knew that obviously like the Empire were searching for or had and whatever else for like Grogu, Baby Yoda, what you want to call him. So it was kind of like, but why? Like what? Like why? Why do you want him? So then to find out that it was obviously like they were testing his blood and like it was so that they could do A, B, and C. That was quite cool, and it kind of like made a lot of sense in that regard. So then going forward, you were like, oh shit, like I don't want this to happen again to him. So and then that's also kind of how the same feelings as what Mando gets, and he's like, nah, this is too far. And then that I think that's probably the episode where it becomes like the parent figure, if that makes sense.
Aye. We spoke about episodes 1 to 4. If we talk about episode 5 with Ahsoka Tano and the double lightsabers, I did see a clip on Instagram the other day of the actress getting her makeup done for that. That seemed pretty extensive. It looked wild.
I can't imagine the amount of hours she had to put it on and then put it off. And the episode's really cool, especially when you like think about it, because Mando is all Western, and then when Ahsoka's fighting, I guess the bad villain, it's very much like a Kurosawa, like Japanese, sword fight, and it's really cool how they pair with each other. And then I also, just my last note on this, I really like how in the beginning of the episode you could see her when the lightsabers or the pure white light is coming out, but then when she like turns them off, she's invisible or like no longer seen. I think that's so cool.
That was awesome. That was done really, really well for that scene, definitely. Gary, what were your thoughts on episode 5?
I thought Ahsoka was brutal in it. I loved that. I loved how intense she was. I definitely agree with Justice. It had more that Kurosawa vibe of the kind of samurai versus the Western. And it was just cool seeing her in live action as a fan of the Clone Wars series, because I thought for sure that would never happen. And to see this actually come to fruition was just awesome.
Yeah, agreed. Bundy?
I think because I tried to go in blind. I tried to avoid any potential like cast spoilers, because a lot of the time when I see like it'll be this person as Darth Vader, and I'm like, oh my god, no. So I tried to avoid everything. So when I seen it, I was like, oh my god, it's Claire. So for anyone who's watched like Iron Fist or Luke Cage or anything, she's like in that. She plays a girl called Claire, a woman called Claire. And I was like, oh my god. And then I was like, I wonder like how good of an Ahsoka Tano she'll be. And now I watch Luke Cage or Iron Fist and I'm like, oh look, it's Ahsoka Tano. But yeah, I think it was cool, like, because typical fight scenes that we've had involving Jedi so far have been mainly like either against like a bunch of troopers, or they've been like kind of like, and obviously Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon were like 2-on-1, but kind of like still like very small scale, like low number battles. So to see her like going in and out like the fog and just taking people out, like being stealthy, I was like, this is like what you said, Gary, really cool and really nice, because this is proper Clone Wars vibes, and it's worth it 100%.
And it just looks cool. It's off the Beskar, the flickering of the lights flashing. I love that too.
The thing is, right, because the noises and the visuals from all the Star Wars films are amazing, but they just continue to make so like leaps and bounds, really, like because I thought, oh, like what will happen when this hits like the Beskar, and yeah. I was like
great
noise,
great noise,
like wild.
Yeah, I love that.
Especially when she just like, even when she just taps it and it makes the ringing noise. Yeah, hell yeah.
Even
That's awesome.
and even when she's like fighting and like she's holding the lightsaber against the Beskar spear and you see the Beskar like glow hot, I was like, that's so cool. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not just as if it's like not reacting to the fact there's a fucking lightsaber on it. It's glowing hot. And then I actually watched to see if she would then touch that same bit, and she never. So I was happy.
That's awesome. So, Gary, what were your thoughts on episode 5?
I mean, we have to talk about the big reveal at the end of her saying, like, looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn, too, because that's another one that's going to be a big deal in the upcoming shows. Like, if you guys have no familiarity with the character, he's a really awesome kind of, like, Tarkin-esque, high Imperial type character, and like, it's going to lead to a huge storyline connecting with some of the other cartoon series with Rebels. So as a fan, I heard her say that, and I just freaked out at that point.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you haven't watched Rebels, I would highly suggest you do that, just because the what they're doing, The Mandalorian, they're really going to intertwine at some point, and they brought a lot of characters like Bo-Katan and Ahsoka, and then Gary said with Thrawn, there's a lot that's going to be going on. So I would definitely watch that. And then you also have I think a really big moment with them revealing Baby Yoda's name with Grogu.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, I kind of paused it, rewound what was going on, and then put the subtitles on just to make sure that I was saying it correctly and knew how to spell it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Episode 6. Do you want to kick us off, Justice?
I believe episode 6 is the one where they take. That's when we meet Boba Fett. Am I correct?
I believe so. Yes. That's when the man returns.
That is yes. It's so cool when so the episode starts with him, or Din Djarin placing Baby Yoda on the rock, and then he finally starts using the Force. But I love how it turns into this massive scale battle, and it keeps on getting like bigger and bigger. And first you have Ferrick, who isn't able to defeat them. Then it's Ferrick and Din that aren't able to defeat the stormtroopers, and then you have Boba Fett, and then he just wrecks absolute shit.
Yeah.
It's so cool because like Boba Fett as well, and because like when you first see it, there's like a patrol of stormtroopers, and you're like, oh, like nice, and they're just like pew 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 pew, and it's like, oh, that's done, and you're like, cool, and then next thing just incoming, and I'm like, oh my god, no, and then when Boba comes in, it's like he was brutal. Like it wasn't just a case of like pew pew, oh, it was. I'm talking like he wielded that staff and he was breaking faces like
sharp in armor. That was awesome.
And it was like you're just a beast. Like there was, because I think in a lot of Star Wars, not just like Mandalorian or the films or stuff like that, there's very few people who are very like, I would say like physically powerful. Like even when you look at someone like Grand Admiral Thrawn that we're talking about, like he's very like evil. Like his character design's really like blue with red eyes and like really evil. But I wouldn't say he's the kind of guy that would just go in and start punching someone. But when you see Boba Fett with like the scars and like the mean look, and then he's just like boom, like I'm like, wow.
No, agreed.
Yeah, they described him as like a barbarian compared to the gunslinger of Din Djarin, which I think is like a perfect way to look at it because he just wrecks them.
And there's no like, because like obviously like Jango Fett was very like, look at me, I'm the best bounty hunter, like, and it was like his fights were very like quick draw, like Western style, like I drew first, you're dead, or like it would like go on like even like I suppose it's more expanded than like some of like the novels and stuff. But even these like bigger fights, when he was like brawling and stuff, it would be because he was almost on the back foot. So to see Boba take all the skill that his father's got, and then have like make it his own and just say, nah, fuck that. I'm like the Dwayne the Rock Johnson of this universe.
when he smashes when he smashes the faces and like the stormtrooper pieces go flying, you knew that this was going to be a great battle.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe they'd done that. It was a great way to sort of show the impact by shattering the stormtrooper's armor.
And you get, hold on really quick, and you get introduced to the Dark Troopers because they come and snatch Baby Yoda, and all I could think about was Bionicles. I don't know if
Yes,
I
I heard you say that in your episode, and when I heard that, I was like, oh my god, that's exactly what they were, Bionicles.
See, I think like it's cool though, because obviously like I don't know if you. Well, I'm going to hope that you guys have played like the Star Wars games and stuff. So like the Death Troopers and blah blah, and like you seeing like and they kind of like nod to it by being like the last flaw was the person inside. And you're like, like, oh man, this is so cool. And then the fact that like obviously he's got like Jin up right up against the wall, it's just like it's like literal, like it's not as if like it's a robot or machine trained to fit like a human. Like this thing was a machine with like pistons and just thudding. And if he didn't have that Beskar on, he's dead. Long dead.
Before we jump too far ahead, episode 7. Do any of you guys know who the Game of Thrones character was? Who the actor was also in this episode for?
No.
I've got Valen Hess, apparently the Night King.
I was going to say Peter Dinklage, I figured that was like that.
But apparently the Night King is in this episode.
Because he's is he the one that they're talking to? And he's the one that's saying like, what's the guys, what are they called? He's like the guy who's like saying that like everything happened and like it was a shame that everyone in the Death Star died, like fuck everyone else. Is that guy? I'm sure.
I think so. I don't have a note of who it was. I've got Valen Hess, Night King, is the note.
I don't know if that's so. You're talking about the stormtroopers that have the doctor, right? Not the character that's talking to Mayfeld before he shoots him when they're in the compound.
It is the guy who's talking to Mayfeld.
Is it? Ah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just looked up now.
So
he's a good actor.
That episode, he is a good actor, as you say. Justice, do you want to kick us off?
Oh yeah, sure. Couple things when thinking about this episode. It's interesting that you get a better character development, a better character arc for Mayfeld in 15 minutes than you do as Finn in 3 movies for a stormtrooper.
Yeah, the applause there. Well done, Justice.
Also, like it. Okay, so again, I'm sorry for being a little bit long, but Rian Johnson, not trying to trash Last Jedi, but
fuck Rian Johnson.
No. He tried to deconstruct Star Wars, and that's the whole point of what The Last Jedi was. But in this episode, I think they did it really well, where they deconstructed the idea of like, what is your purpose as a Mandalorian, and what lengths are you going to go to break your code? And you really get to start to see him break that code when he takes off his helmet, which that really scene doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's still cool seeing him take off the helmet.
Agreed.
Yeah, there is the plot hole there of, you need the security access of just having a random face. And that's what gets you open into the system, versus him actually being somebody they know. It definitely is a plot hole, but I have to say I was still like moved emotionally by him taking the helmet off to save the kid.
Yeah, so it's a fairly minimalistic plot hole compared to a lot of TV series these days.
And I think like it's more like it's cool because it's like the desperation, and I think that Pedro Pascal does a really good job in showing that like the whole time. It's not as if he like takes it off and he's like, fuck it. It's like he takes it off and he's like, oh no, and he's like even like he's really panicked, and that's not very like Jin Darren of him, if that makes sense. He's usually like really cool, calm, collected, and he's quite like witty and snappy, and like it never really fears much. So when he's like taking that helmet off, he's like exposed, and he's really, really panicky and really anxious, and it's cool to see that. I like that.
Yeah.
And that episode, were you gonna say? You can go.
So I was just going to say, I don't think Pedro Pascal gets enough credit for what he does, because it's hard being an actor, full stop. But without being able to use facial expressions for a whole series, that's pretty tough going.
Oh yeah, he does a great job, just like with his like head tilts and his different voice acting that he has, where he adds that emotion in there for everyone to really feel. And I also I was just gonna say the fan service in the episode was them entering into Slave One and seeing them like how does the ship turn when you're sitting inside, and then the bomb that went off like in episode 2. And when I saw that early in the morning, I freaked out. I was like, no way! Like childhood memories just flushing through my head.
That is cool because that's always been something that because you've seen it like in multiple different ways. So like, how does it work? And then to see it like working, it's kind of like as if they were like, do you know what's not been explained yet? Really, how Slave One works. So let's explain it.
Yeah. So that brings us on to the final episode. Now, for full disclosure, how we watched the final episode was we ended up, this was during a lull in the lockdowns over here. So I spoke with Bundy and we agreed we were going to watch it together. He said he got up early, watched it in the morning. I hadn't watched it yet. So when I met him, he was like, it's so good, you won't believe it. It's a great ending, it's perfect. He was like, tell you what, guess what happens? Now Bundy's got an excellent poker face. He didn't give it away at all. But he was telling me, he's like, I want you to guess what happens and then we'll see if you're right. Okay, fine. So I guessed that someone would get involved. I guessed a Jedi of some kind, but I didn't guess the Jedi, obviously. And then when it came to watching the episode, the TV that we were going to use stopped working. So we ended up sitting on a table crowded around his phone and we watched it on his phone. Oh, but it's okay. We watched it later on the full screen, so it's all good. Bundy, I think you need to kick us off on episode 8 here.
Just like, it's just if there was ever a time to chef's kiss an episode, it would be episode 8, right? Like, there was just so many things done right. Like, I think it tied up the whole Moff Gideon thing really well. It like expanded on even like even going back to Moff Gideon, the fact that like, he'll do like anything to try and like get his way out of something, and he just wants basically for himself and nothing else. It then kind of showed the dire situation that they were in, because obviously, like, yeah, it's great that they've made it there, but realistically, there's still a very, very large amount of nigh unkillable machines storming down your door, punching a blast door that should not be punched open. And then it was just that whole like what happened, and then just the for me, just the X-wing going past. I was like,
couldn't agree more. That was
and then the fact that they were like, oh, one X-wing, great, and I was like, what?
Do you know who's
I'm thinking, right, markings on an X-wing. I don't think it can be like this X-wing. It's not like timeline-wise. Where are we? Who can it be? Like,
that's what got me the timeline. Because you're trying to pick out exactly where you are.
If you've ever seen the meme, right, where it's like Zach Galifianakis with all the numbers flying, that was me. I was like, amazing.
Gary,
man.
What did you think of this episode?
It was perfect. Honestly, it was so great. It was tough for me because you go between swings of emotion from like, oh no, it's so tragic and sad, Baby Yoda's going away, but it's Luke freaking Skywalker, and there's a lot of gratification in all of it. What gets me though is the scene that's compared a lot to Rogue One and Vader's scene, where you see Luke at his best, just kicking ass, destroying these robots like that. Oh my gosh, that soothes my soul.
Yeah. What about you, Justus?
So easy as well. Like,
it's incredible.
Oh yeah, it was definitely satisfying seeing Luke just like crush the droid. And as for the last one, I loved it. I keep on saying that. I really, really enjoy this episode or this season. I liked the fight scene between Din Djarin and what is his name? what is Moff Gideon? Yeah, Moff Gideon. That I was waiting for that. I love that he's got the Darksaber now, and I think the season did a really good job of, ending on this really like high emotion with him revealing like his helmet to Grogu and this like father son moment as he's like letting him go with Luke to get trained. But it's also like sad at the same time because you're like what happens with Luke, and so it was like there's like when I first saw the X-wing and saw his hand, I freaked out. But then at the end of the episode, I was like kind of crying because I was like, what happens to Grogu?
The cool thing is as well is like when he's like go with Luke, like come on, like go on you go, and like I was like and then R2 comes out and I'm like now I don't feel so bad because it's almost like it builds that like him just coming out builds that sense of family, like because like who doesn't love R2D2? Do you know what I mean? Like, and like, has there ever been an instance of R2D2 being a dick? No, right? C3PO, like him and Grogu wouldn't get on, right? Maybe wouldn't get on, right? Because like he'd be like, oh dear, what is this child? Right? But then R2's just like, and then that would be like, oh. So I think that was really, really good. And then I don't know. So this is the question I'm going to actually pose to Gary and Justice just used to, right? So Moff Gideon pulls out like the blaster and shoots, and I don't know if he hits Bo-Katan, but he hits someone. I'm trying to think who he hits, but then you see nothing else of it. So
I think it must have just deflected, did it not? Off the best.
Because I think it was Bo-Katan.
It's Bo-Katan, but she's fine. She's wearing Beskar, so I don't think there's anything. I think the scene was more focusing on Luke and and Din Djarin and Grogu.
It's only because I was kind of like, because like usually when you have like a hero, like usually like that person's like injured of some sort, and I was kind of like, are you injured? Are you not? Because there was the whole like it was really cool, but the whole like I can't take the Darksaber from you because like I need to win it in a battle.
I like that. That brought a bit of a darker element to the whole series, which I think they were aiming for when they brought in more like sort of Clone Wars sort of storyline.
And I think that's cool, but then like that's why I was kind of like, oh, maybe like she's injured and she's going to be like, nah, fuck the Darksaber. But if not, then great.
I can't see Dave Filoni letting one of his characters not, have a huge part in the future plans, especially now that there's. Grogu is going off of Luke, and Din has, he's completed his mission, but he also is opened up to this whole new thing with the Darksaber, and what is he going to do with that? And so there's no way that she's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So that rounds out the series. Did you get, if you had to pick one or the other, series 1 or 2, Bundy?
Series 2, just like you could tell me. Series 1 and 2 up to episode 7 or episode 8, I'll pick episode 8.
Okay. Justice?
Season 2.
Gary?
I think season 1 is better. Season 2 has mainly the hype because of all the cameos, which I loved every bit of it, but I think story-wise, season 1 is better.
I think I'm probably with Gary on this, but hype's hard to ignore, so I'm
hard to
almost
ignore.
right. Yeah.
I knew that Justice was my favourite of you and Gary.
Here we go. So around the same time, we got a plethora of announcements from Disney about future Star Wars projects. To name a few, we've got Star Wars: The Bad Batch, The Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, The Acolyte, Rogue Squadron. It's going to explode, and some of those have dates associated with them. Some of them are 2021 on Disney Plus. Some of them are TVA. Is there? If you had to pick one that you're most excited about each, which would it be?
Can I pick 3?
Sure. Justice and Gary, you guys can pick 3 because you have much more knowledge in the field than us.
So the 3 that I'm really excited for is obviously Obi-Wan, because that's something as a prequel lover we've been looking for, since we were little. And Hayden Christensen's coming back. Visions, because Star Wars and anime is a perfect combination, and I'm really excited to, and I'm a huge anime fan, so I'm really excited to see, what they do with the series. And then the last one is the Acolyte, because I love villains, and this seems like it's going to be some Old Republic and High Republic stuff. So that's one I'm very, very excited for.
Literally the exact same for me too. Like, the Acolyte is going to bridge in a lot of the High Republic stuff, which is in the books, and trying to do like a whole branch away from the Skywalker saga, which sounds really dope. Obviously Obi-Wan is going to be amazing. Ewan McGregor coming back. We get that Vader versus Obi-Wan fight, possibly, kind of that we always wanted, that we didn't really get in episode 4 because it was in the 70s. And Visions, I think, is going to be the sleeper pick that people aren't going to like jump on right away, but it's going to blow their minds. Like, anime style is perfectly fitted for Star Wars because you're not really held back by any laws of physics or imagination. You can do whatever the hell you want and make it as epic as you want, and it'll work real well.
Bundy?
So Visions was one of the ones I was going to pick that I didn't think anyone else would pick. But I'm glad both of you have picked it, because, like you were saying, if you could have merged some like Attack on Titan or Naruto Shippuden, like that, and then just bring Star Wars on it, I'd be like, oh my god, yes. And it's similar because, like, you know how obviously like the whole first season of like the animated series of the Clone Wars was like terrible on Rotten Tomatoes, and as the end season it was like 98%. It's literally because they went down more of an anime route. In my eyes, that's what I see it as. So I think that's going to be a really good one.
I think you have to say Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, 100%. And I don't know, like how, like, where are we going with it? Are we going to see the Darth Maul Obi-Wan desert fight? Like, will that happen? Like, is it going to be like, because Obi-Wan, like, that timeline could introduce so many characters. And I think it would be a really good crossover for numerous different series as well. So I feel like it will be like one that ties a lot of them in.
Yeah, there's theories that they're going to pull from Jason Aaron's comics, and there's also theories that they're going to you could have a fight with Vader and Obi-Wan, but I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of what did Obi-Wan do on Tatooine. And if you are wondering that question, those comics and Jason Aaron's run are really, really cool. So I have a feeling that Deborah Chow is going to pull a lot of information from that.
I think I need to. So I don't know if this is my last pick, but they said that Taika Waititi is going to be directing a film for Star Wars. That's like, they've said nothing else. Like, just said he's the director. Like. And we already know from like the last episode in season 1, which was a banger, that he can do well. So it's kind of like, and I this is unrealistic, and I know it's unrealistic, but I just want him to make a Darth Vader movie, right? Just give me it. Like, I want him to do the scene where he's like, I'm surrounded by nothing but dead men, and be like, imagine how amazing that would be. But if we're going by what's been going so far, I would probably say maybe Rangers of the New Republic, actually. I feel like that could be really good, because obviously like the whole like Commandos of the New Republic, Rangers of the New Republic, like, will it be similar? Cara Dune, like, will she play a part in it? Like, I feel like that could be good. I feel like that could be quite like a more down to earth Star Wars series, similar to the Mandalorian. I think that if they managed to get into a fight with Jedis, I think it would be like them that would be the focus, and not like the Jedi slaughtering everyone. So I think that could be good.
I think if you're gonna so there's Ahsoka, there's Rangers of the Lost Republic, or Rangers of the New Republic, and then there's the Mandalorian season 3. So I think Ahsoka is going to be heavily Jedi focused. Rangers is going to be down to earth, like you're talking about, and then Mando's going to bridge the gap between the two.
Yeah, and I just think that like it would be cool, because like there's a lot of like you mentioned earlier on, like the Knights of the Old Republic. There's a lot of like the cutscenes in there where like there's Jedis fighting, but there's also like the troopers fighting as well, and the troopers are badass. Like, if you give me an animated series of that, I'm watching it. But the fact that they're going to, I don't know if it's going to be animated or live action, but like that'd be cool. And just to see those, like, imagine they brought in characters like Rex and all like that. That'd be sick.
I think
Good thing you're getting Bad Batch.
True.
Bad Batch for me has to be on the radar. Plus, it's partly because it's one of the ones coming out sooner. I think the standard one across us all is Obi-Wan Kenobi one.
Mm-hmm.
And bearing in mind the abuse that Hayden Christensen got for the original trilogy, and to a certain extent that Ewan McGregor got, they've got to have been thinking that whole time, if I was to do that again, here's what I would change. They've got to be doing that, and surely they've got to sand down their rough edges.
I know what they should change, right? The first episode, they'll be like, nothing. This is it. We're staying true, because both of them are fucking G's to the highest order.
We still quote Obi-Wan Kenobi to this. It's just Obi-Wan Kenobi memes sent on a weekly basis. Usually, there's a lot of it I wouldn't change, to be fair.
And people are like, oh, like the whole like, I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough, and it get blah blah. Or like him and Padme line, and like Padme's like, oh, like happy, and he's like, fuck this. But like, technically, if we're looking at it in like that way, prequel memes has actually done a lot for like the prequels, because prequel memes is almost like, it started off as like slating it, and now it's to a point where it's kind of like, we love the prequels because of these. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of the prequels.
I'm a big fan of the memes as well. But if we're looking at memes, the best ones have came from the prequels. So it's the whole Star Wars universe is looking incredible over the next 4 years.
Also, before you go, I know this is where we're going, right, but I would also please, to the Star Wars gods, if you're listening, if you're going to be doing the Obi-Wan series, please somehow, somewhere, incorporate the man that's above us all, Qui-Gon Jinn, please. Thank you.
Yes.
He's talked about how he wants to come back, so that'd be cool.
Exactly. Imagine, like, even if it's just
that's got to be the link. Yeah.
You need to read the Master and Apprentice book by Claudia Gray.
Oh, how? Oh, right. Okay, we'll be getting a look at that. I believe Bundy is on Google right now.
It's a prequel to episode 1, but it's heavily Qui-Gon influenced, and it's really good.
It's like them together while Qui-Gon's training Obi-Wan, and kind of their adventures together. It's really, really great. So like that one's really high on the list. The Kenobi book too, if you're looking for more about what Kenobi was doing in Tatooine, it's okay. It's not one of my favorite Star Wars books, but it talks a lot about him trying to discover what it means and how to become a Force ghost.
I like it.
So just for proof.
Yep, that one.
Yes,
yep. That one's great.
Yep, okay.
And there's a good audiobook called Dooku Jedi Lost, and it's by Kevin Scott, and those go hand in hand, and they are. That is like, if you are a Qui-Gon lover, those are the two things you need to read.
I like it. So there you go, people out there. That's what to look for. Now, how we finished the last episode with you guys was a test of knowledge. Once again,
fuck me.
We are going to put the Pod Wars guys up against their very own knowledge bank, Mr. Bundy.
Well, we proved last time that I'm not the knowledge bank, because I was
I'm going to say that that was a bad day for you, and we're going to balance that out here.
No, because the thing is, right, we literally do have Obi-Wan and Justice and Qui-Gon and Gary, and then there's me as Darth Maul.
I was going to say Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks is probably...
That's true.
Okay.
So remember that I got the Jabba the Hutt species wrong because I said slug.
and don't worry, we haven't forgot that. So the way it's going to work this time is in turns. We're going to go ask you a question each. We're going to do that 3 times, and I've got a tiebreaker at the end. Okay. Now, I've got questions listed, and to prove there's no cheating, I would like you guys to number yourselves. So 1 to 3 between the 3 of you.
I'll let Justice and Gary pick
Justice, go to Gary. Which number do you want?
I'll be 3.
Okay, fun. So we're going to go Bundy, Justice, Gary. Okay. Bundy,
Mhm.
your first question. When does The Mandalorian take place? So 5 years block, so relative to a different series or a different movie.
It's after A New Hope, which would be because obviously the Emperor's been defeated.
Yeah.
After A New Hope,
Take a
which
guess
would
here.
be after Return of the Jedi. I'm going to go. We're saying 5 years. I'm going to say 5 years after the Return of the Jedi because
Correct.
Oh, I've literally this fell from celebrating. I'm sorry.
Okay, right. This is an easy one, but number 2. The question I don't feel is fair. Number 2 is you, Justice, and the question is, what is the Mandalorian's name? But I feel like we need to ramp it up a bit. Justice, spell the Mandalorian's name for me.
Din space. And I don't know.
Okay, we'll give that a 0. Gary, your question is, what is the Mandalorian's armor made of?
It's made of Beskar.
Okay, I'll give you that. So we've got 1-0-1. Second round, Bundy. In the first episode of The Mandalorian, Mando's mithril bounty mentions trying to get home for which holiday? I'm going to give you 5 seconds to answer.
Christmas.
Wrong. Life Day.
Fuck.
Justice, what is the name of the Mandalorian ship?
Razor Crest.
Yep.
I got that question. He go, what's the name of the ship? Gary go, what is it
Hold on.
made of?
You have one easy question each. Bear that in mind. Okay. Gary, what creature does Mando learn to ride on Arvala 7?
Oh. What creature does he ride on where?
Arvala 7.
It's not a mythosaur, but I'm going to say mythosaur.
No, it's a blurg.
Oh, yeah, the little seaman-looking things. Yeah.
Yes. So to make sure we have... You know what? I feel like I need to give... Oh, no, you got the easy one, Razor Crest. Sorry. I was just checking the questions were all similar. But so at the minute, the scores are 1 each. 1 for everyone. So this is the final round here. Bundy, what did fans name the child?
Baby Yoda.
Yes. So there's your 1 easy question each. Okay. Justice. What bounty hunter does the Mandalorian team up with to capture the child?
When? I mean, there's Boba Fett. There's Ferric.
First one.
There's.
Oh no! Wait. Sorry.
There's and then there's Cobb Vanth. There's
it's a droid name. It's a droid name. That's the clue I can give you.
What droid bounty hunter?
Oh, IG-88.
Oh, so close.
IG-11.
IG-11.
IG-11. Fuck.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you IG-11 because you said that as I was saying it. So we'll go with that 2 each. So he's staying in the running here, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
What does the Mando trade with the Jawas who stripped his ship?
A big ass egg.
Correct. Okay. Final question here. First one to answer wins. So Bundy, no pressure here. Name the character who has the catchphrase, "I have spoken."
Quill.
Justice wins. There we go. Congratulations, Justice.
Yes.
Unsurprisingly, we've proven that the Pod Wars podcast is more knowledgeable than us. Oh, well done, guys. Well done, guys. And thanks again so much for having joining us for an episode this week. We really appreciate it. We've been wanting to get an episode with you since The Mandalorian season 2 came out.
Yeah,
I feel like
thanks for
Darth
having us
Maul
back
both
on.
times. Justice and Gary are Obi-Wan, and I fought them the first time and lost. I fought them the second time and I lost again.
Yeah. You never know. We might have a third time in future, and we'll get redemption. You never know, Bundy.
Oh, for sure.
I'll be training hard.
Thanks for having us on.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, guys. As always, all links will be down below, so you can definitely check out these guys. If you want to listen to a Star Wars podcast where people speak about it who actually know what they're talking about, this is the exact place you should go. I promise you'll get a good laugh and you'll learn stuff at the same time.
Also, some of the best guests you'll ever see on any podcast, not just Star Wars related. But I don't know how you guys do it. You must have like unlimited money or unlimited contacts underground, but wild. So definitely worth listening.
These guys get top tier guests on. Definitely.
A lot of dick sucking.
Speaking of which, not Justice's comment, but the guest, it's not a Pod Wars episode unless we plug our own crap, but we're having a guest on our way here. One of the stuntmen from The Mandalorian, one of the guys who got his ass kicked by Boba Fett, and that's scene coming up soon. So prepare for that.
He was also the motion. He wore the motion cap when Luke crushed him. He was the last droid. So,
awesome. Well, for what it's worth, what Justice said is going to be used for the end clip, I believe. Thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to go check out the Pod Wars podcast. Go on Spotify, iTunes. You can catch them on Twitter as well. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.